gorilla stomping in a zoo. Check the vocals, animals gather right.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, I'm going to have to do some work on my truck. And my truck is a 2004 GMC Sierra 1500, and she's been showing her age. All right, 17 years old, and if you remember not far back in some other videos, it all began with the starter. All right, the starter was went. I had the truck towed into the garage, new starter put on, all was well. Next, I get another check engine light. Misfiring on cylinder 7. I was like, okay, let's see what that's all about. Put her in the garage. Sure enough, injector was bad, fuel rail was dirty. Got that replaced, cleaned up, working again. All right, that's 2. Next, I got out of the vehicle one day and I smelled fresh gas in the air. So I got down, looked under the truck. Sure enough, on the fuel tank was fresh gas leaking out of the tank, dripping down. I was like, okay, now what? So following a bit of research and figuring things out, I assumed that the fuel pump, which is metal on the top, had rusted through and created a hole down into the tank and compromised the fuel pump. And of course, I was getting those issues. I was getting delayed starting. The starter just turned, almost like it's priming the system before it would finally catch and go. So anyways, back to the garage it went. Alright, into the garage, they had to replace the fuel pump. They had to flush the fuel tank due to the rust dropping down into it, which probably led to the plugged injector previously. They replaced the tank straps and replaced the quick connect hoses to the fuel system from the tank. On top of that, the transmission cooling line was leaking, and the transmission fluid itself was due for replacement and filter replacement. So I said, you know what, if you're going to be doing the transmission cooling lines, just as well to do the transmission fluid change and filter change. So that's done as well. So you tally all that up, and this old truck has definitely drained the account lately with maintenance and repair issues. But it didn't stop there. All right, there's a reason this truck is in the garage right now and we're talking in front of it, and I'm getting to it. And that is, 2 days ago, I was out driving around the town, doing errands, went to the dump, all that good stuff. And before I came home, or on the way home, I started smelling like a burning smell. I was like, oh great, now what? So of course you start with the phase of denial, and you're like, oh, it must be a truck around me somewhere with some diesel fuel that's giving off these smells, or anything other than my own vehicle. But the further I went, the smell persisted. It came on with me. So no matter how many vehicles I got away from, the smell was still there. So I had to accept it was coming from my vehicle. So about partway home, I pulled off on the side of the road, and this passenger front tire had smoke coming out of the wheel well, and I felt the hubs of all 4 tires, and this one, I swear, you could cook an egg on it. It was that hot. Alright, so I stayed there, let it cool down a bit. I called my wife to meet me and to bring a fire extinguisher with her so that I could have it and try to limp the truck home, which I did, and I got it home safely. And when I got in the driveway, I actually took an old bit of dandelion and just touched it on the brake caliper, or on the brake rotor, and it sizzled and popped and everything. Like, you could literally fry an egg on the rotor. So whether that is a jammed caliper, or if it's just rusted up brakes that are just seized, anyways, this is what we're getting into today. So I've gone to Napa, I got all my parts, new rotors, new pads, brake fluid, lubricant, sliders, and brake part cleaner. That's my current collection of tools, and I was just looking at them that time in order to list it off to you. And I'm going to try and tackle this myself. Alright, so full brake job's being done, and we're going to be paying very close attention to the working order of this caliper, getting everything lubricated and cleaned up properly. So this could be a slow, steady project. I'm not going to be rushing through it. I'm going to be cleaning things thoroughly and try almost like doing a restoration on the brakes here as I go, because they are such an important component of your vehicle. I don't want to mess it up, but since I'm putting my own hands on it, I want that reassurance that I did a good job. Alright, so I'm going to be really trying to be thorough. I'm learning here as I go. I've never done a truck's brakes before. I did a car brake, my car brakes one time in the past. So this is kind of a new ball game. 17 years of rust. It should be interesting. You guys are going to discover it along with me, and we'll see what happens. Alright. Don't know what else to say other than to go and get into it. We got a little bit of a long intro here, but I wanted to bring you guys up with the history of where I've been with this truck and where we're going. As for right now, I think this truck is worth fixing. Alright. What I'm saving in lack of payments, if I reinvest some of that in repairs to keep it going, I think should come out ahead in the end. That's yet to be seen. But I'm going to continue to repair until it doesn't make sense. And as for right now, full brake job, that makes sense. The pedal was squishy. It needed brakes anyways. So hopefully this will fix that seizing issue. And that's it. Let's get into the action. Let's figure out what's going on. Get this truck up in the air, get the tire off, have a good look, and go from there. So I'll get my tools together now, and we'll get in on the tire and start some work. All right, fingers crossed. Let's go. So now that I've gathered a few tools, I'm sure it's not even close to what I'm going to be using, but I'm going to kind of be grabbing tools as I go through the job instead of trying to assume or guess at what I'm going to need. So I got the floor jack put outside ready to go, and I got the jacks, some jack stands to put in under once she's up so that we can take the weight off of the jack. Alright, for any prolonged jobs like this, make sure you are using those jack stands. Leaving a vehicle up on your jack is not safe. Alright, if the hydraulics fail in that floor jack, she could come crashing down. So always have your jack stands in there, and put the weight of the truck or vehicle back down onto those stands and take your floor jack out of the way. Alright, so first thing I need to do is break the bolts in here. So I'm going to figure out what size they are, and I'll just take off the hubcap cover, and I'm going to go grab some sockets and see if I can match up what size these are, and put that on the breaker bar, get those broken loose, and then we'll proceed to jacking the truck up. So just getting the right socket size figured out. So get Mr. Man to try and fit the other side onto these. Turn it around. We'll just flip it over this way. Try to fit it onto the bolt, see if it'll go. No luck. Let's see. Yeah, that's the one. Good. So 22 millimeter for the lug nuts, and I'll get that on the breaker bar and we'll get those broken loose. Alright, so I got my breaker bar here. I'll put that into an extension and then into the 22. I got it set for braking, and we'll just go for it. I'll tell you, that tire wasn't going to come off. Ooh. not going to do this without a breaker bar. Ooh. Alright, so they are broken. Hopefully they continue to come off okay. But if that's a sign of things to come, hopefully not. Let's just say that. And I'm just going to throw a little bit of WD-40 on these bolts. Just to help them come off the rest of the way. Like such. Alright, so now at this point we'll get the truck up in the air and take this bad boy off to see what we see. Alright, might be a little bit windy at this point for you guys because I got the camera out by the door. But I'm going to be approaching this from the front. Let's get the floor jack in place. So where I'm aiming for here is for the control arm. I do want the jack a little ways out of the way, but this is only just to get the jack stands underneath, so we just want this side off the ground. Alright, so now that we got it up in the air, I'm going to get my jack stand underneath the frame. Looking to make sure I get a good strong point here. Looks good. Go ahead and get this in place. Like so. Put in my safety pin. Get it to go in the right way. Be alright if I was trying to put it in from the correct side. There. Okay, the safety pin is in. Jack stand is lined up like such. Now I'm going to ease my jack down and let the jack stand take the weight. So unfortunately, that jack stand just pushed in on the frame. Alright, so let's get ready for air hammer use. Get the hose reeled out, turn on the compressor, get that charged up, and we'll start removing some lug nuts. It was a little bit worrisome when I was putting the truck on the jack stand. The frame was actually starting to bend in a little bit, so I readjusted the placement of the jack stand to be on some stronger weld points, and so far it's holding up. Hopefully that continues. We do have to do some manipulation of the caliper and everything, and maybe some seized bolts. So if we're putting any torque on those, hopefully everything is okay. So I'm going to put a second jack stand in for backup, and we'll keep pushing. Alright, before I take the wheel off, I'm just going to show you guys how the jack stands ended up. So here we are underneath. So we got the backup one there in case it comes down. This is the first one that I put on. And you can kind of see the dent that started from the pointy side of this jack stand. Alright, so those are in place. Time to get the wheel off. Alright, one other thing before I take this off that I just wanted to show. It doesn't look like it's very far off the ground, because it's not, but it does turn somewhat freely. There is a bit of resistance there, but there's no grinding or anything audible here in the hub, and the wheel is only loose because I got the lug nuts loosened. Other than that, there's no play in the hub, so I'm thinking that the bearings are fine and we can just concentrate on the brakes, hopefully. So with that said, I'm going to get the impact hammer on the airline. We'll get these nuts off and keep going. There we are, 6 lug nuts. I'm just going to lay them in the top of this, similar to A Christmas Story, if you're familiar with that. Hopefully the end result is not the same as those guys. There we are, tire is away. I'm going to lay it outside. Alright, so I'm just going to begin by just doing a visual inspection of everything. Alright, as far as my flex line goes to the caliper, a bit rusty, as you'd expect. Flaking some rust off of the banjo fitting here. Alright, heat shield is rusty but intact. And then we got our big dual piston caliper here and rotors. And there is no hex screw or anything holding this rotor in by the look of it. So that should hopefully just slide off. Caliper is going to be the biggest thing as far as this job goes, with the hardware and the sliders and everything like that. Rotor is pretty quick off then back on, minus a bit of lubrication and stuff. Alright, so just deciding where to begin. Going to have to be the caliper. And just looking at the mounting points for that. Overall, just visually seeing how everything is laid out before I just go loosening bolts, you know. Alright, so after having a look at things, I got a number 55 Torx bit. That's for the sliders. They're good and solid in there. I'll try and get a bit more leverage on it. Alright, this is some hard going. So what I've done, I jacked up the other side and turned the key one little click to unlock the steering. So now I can do that. So hopefully that'll give me a bit more leverage to get at these bolts. And if needed, I don't think, no, I'm not going to be able to get the breaker bar in there, but should hopefully at least be able to get some more leverage. So let's see what happens. On there good and tight, I'll tell you that. Maybe a 17-year-old truck is not the ideal project vehicle for the novice. Oh, broke one. Broke one loose. Took a bit of gusto and a little smack on top of the head. That's it. Maybe if I try to hit this one away from me. Holy moly. Let's see if I get a breaker on that somehow. Oh, I think we got it. Let me see. Yeah, I got it. Oh, all right. Let's get a regular ratchet now instead of the breaker bar. Alright, so this is just the sliders that I'm loosening here now. Now what's going to come apart after I get the sliders out, I don't really know, to be honest with you. But I'm replacing it all. So I'm going to take out the bottom slider. A little bit gunky. Lay that somewhere half clean. And I'll take this one out as well. Now let's see if the caliper itself will release. Give us some gentle taps here. I love taps. It's coming. It's coming slowly but surely. There we go. Now, I'm going to get some zip ties to hold this up, but I also need to test this caliper to make sure these pistons are going to retract back in. So I'll get to that as well. But the caliper's off at least. We still got our saddle, our bracket here. That'll come off very shortly. She's good, and those pads are good and jammed onto the rotor there, that's for sure. Alright, I'm going to go get a zip tie and we'll zip this up out of the way. Alright, so for diagnosing this caliper and see if it'll retract before I zip tie it up, I'll let it down there. It's a heavy caliper, just so you know. Alright, I'll have a look around here. You know, good and rusty and stuff. The banjo fitting, that could be better. Alright, but I'm going to put a piece of wood across the two pistons, and I'm hoping these little hang clamps will extend enough to catch it. And let's see if it will compress these pistons back in. This could be it shouldn't take this much force, I don't think, to get it to go back in. They do not want to retract at all. Oh man. So this could be a caliper issue. like these pistons, you know, by rights. Now I don't have the brake reservoir cap off. What state is our bleeder in? A bit rough. I didn't want to have to get into bleeding anything. But I'm going to see if I got a better way of trying to compress these. I'll try one at a time first. Doesn't want to budge at all. Alright, I'm gonna take the cover off of the brake fluid reservoir and see if that makes any difference. There is a possibility as well of like the ABS valves and stuff preventing it going backwards. Anyways, I'm going to keep working at this, get the reservoir off, see if I can get those pistons to retract. We'll see. Alright, so I've gotten to the point now where I'm going to try and loosen the bleeder and see if that will release some pressure to let the caliper pistons retract. It's a long shot, and I should get some shop rags, I guess. Put that underneath there. And let's see if we can get a grip on this bleeder. I don't know if there's enough there to get a bite on with a regular wrench before I tear it up with teeth of a grip. I'll check a few socket sizes and see, and see if what we can do there. The 8 is just slipping over. In for a penny, in for a pound, right? No dice there so far. Now let's see what else we can throw at it. I've gone to the standard set as well. I have 5/16 and 8mm here. And I got some vice grips too, so I'll try 5/16 way too big. And 8 also too big. No sir, she does not want to come. Now what? Now what? So, I guess the next step could be to take out the banjo bolt and take the caliper off altogether. Just wondering where the end game of that would be. Right, I don't know how much we'd be getting into with that. That bleeder valve is not playing friendly. and I don't want all my brake fluid leaking out if I haul out the banjo bolt and it starts dripping. Then I'm looking to have the clamp off the line and all that. So we're in some nasty brake, nasty old rust. Yeah. Let's see what size socket it is to take off the banjo bolt here. Alright, so this is a number 11. Let's see. Alright, so we got brake fluid already beginning to drip. Close that off again for now. So my big thing now is just controlling brake fluid from leaking out of the lines. I've seen many people online using clamps on the hose itself, but there is the worry of collapsing the inside of the tubing. But I also don't want to have to re-bleed everything everywhere else. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my clamp on my piston caliper piston. Try to compress that while this is partially open. Alright, so she's able to drip freely there now. And that piston does not want to retract. Alright, so let's tighten this back up again. Alright, so I'm going to make a call for a caliper and go from there. Alright, so as for now, we're going into brake mode, figure out mode, and we will be back at some point in time. And with the magic of movie making, we are back where we were, except I got a couple of new boxes. And I do mean a couple. We got our new caliper, and I also went ahead and got one for the left side as well, because if this one is any indication, I'd feel a lot safer by having a refurbished new one on both sides, especially on the front where most of your braking power originates. A little bit of dusty stuff in here. Alright, so this is going to eliminate the need for new sliders, because this is fully assembled with everything. And so we're going to get this ready to install. I want to do this as a quick swap as well. just because I don't want to have to clamp off the brake fluid hose. So I do, let me see, I'm just sizing this up. So yeah, so I just want to, you know, pop off the banjo fitting on the old one, move it onto the new one as quick as possible. 14mm, this is same for this plug. Alright, so hopefully this will result, once all is said and done, in a much improved braking experience. Alright, so we got a little plug, we'll save that for to send the core back. The only thing they never had, unfortunately, was new banjo bolts. So we actually got to reuse the old rusty ones. Good thing that they're still working. I can see grease already on the sliders. That is good. But we will be disassembling this to a point anyways to get the saddle and everything. We got hardware that came with it. And I think there's hardware with our new pads as well. So. Oh, look at that. New banjo bolt is in there with it already. So, success. Alright, that's a good success. So that is nice to see. So far we got a full new package. Happy, happy. So let's get to removing the old one. I got my gloves on because brake fluid is so corrosive and nasty. And I actually got a little hole in the tip of this one, so I'm going to double up here. And I'll get this broke down, get the sliders out. These look like different sliders as well. We got a bolt on the outside as well as the guide pin actually has a slot. So it's a bit different than what's on there right now. Hopefully everything will match up as we go. Let's get this unpackaged. Now, let's say our original here has the had the Torx screws for the Torx screws for the guide pins, so the sliders. So we don't have that this time around. So we'll have to hold this one steady inside while we loosen the outside one, and that'll free the saddle and everything from the caliper piston. Okay, so I'm going to find some wrenches and everything proper size for this, and we'll disassemble this down to where we need it. Alright, got a lovely working table here. So, let us, these are 19s on this. Just noticing there's a little tear in the slider boot. So we got pinched at some point. Carry on. That's one loosened. There we are. Get the boot back up over. So this is a totally different slider than what I had as a replacement part. These smaller bolts holding in the sliders. There we are, and look at my lovely glove busted open here. Alright, so that's the saddle, outside of the piston. There we are. That is good. I'll lay the bolts in the box down. Alright, let's get back to the work site. So this is matching up correctly with the old one. Alright, so we're just going to reassemble in the same orientation and everything. And once it's on, then I'll put a little bit of grease in these areas and have that done. But first and foremost is to replace my gloves, double them up I would say, and get that banjo bolt off the old one and onto the new one. And I'll make sure that this bolt, the new one, is the same size for the ratchet I've been using. And it is. That's an 11. Okay, and got 2 washers in there. So one on either side, I believe, should be the plan. Looks like copper washers. Put one on the bolt itself, and then the other will go on the other side of the banjo fitting. So we'll have that ready. Alrighty, that's that. So I'll go replace my gloves. We'll come back and see how messy we get with brake fluid trying to get this swapped over. Alright, so back to it. We'll get the old one off now. Try our best to limit brake fluid loss. Alright, here we go. So now one thing I was going to do, I was just going to brush this banjo fitting off a little bit. Now this is brake fluid, so I'm being mindful of the spatters. While not rocking the caliper too much because it is still just hanging there. Alright, so let's go for it. New banjo fitting. Save a washer. Ready to rock. Trying to make sure I'm dotting all my I's and crossing my T's here because we'll see how it goes. Alright, let's get this caliper out of the way. Now this bottom washer is stuck on there, of course, as it would be. I'm just going to try tapping it out. Definitely a lot of finagling going on here. This is it. This is real life. Oh, she's dripping. I don't know why to have such a small washer on here. Alright, let's just keep trying to get this off here. Stay back with it, man. It's dangerous fluid. Alright, I'm just going to try. Try get my glasses down over my eyes so I can get us a few good smacks. I'm gonna let that drip for a second. I gotta get some clippers, see if I can clip that washer off. So somewhere out there is a mechanic that is glad I never brought this to them. Oh man. Brake fluid everywhere. It is dripping. Let's try just hitting it down again. That might go this time. Oh, finally. Alright. Alright, here we go. Clean this up a little bit. Alright, so there's the new caliper. Hose that way. Oh my, brake fluid everywhere, guys. Alright. Oh, man, oh man. What a mess. What a mess. So I'll take that off. That's not serving no purpose now. Let's shed one of these layers of gloves. Alright. Next, get this saddle off here. So I'll zip tie this caliper up. I'll find a fancy place to put that. Alright, so I'll hang the caliper here for now. Bit of weight to it. I don't know if this spot that I've chosen is going to work or not. I'm going to need a third zip tie. There we are. It's hung up out of the way. Now get working at getting this cradle off. If you couldn't tell by now, this video is going to be a long one, and it's probably going to be multiple parts to it, because we're learning as we go here. Get some of that brake fluid off of the caliper and surrounding areas. I'm going to give that a bit of dousing and brake part cleaner. Alright, let's figure out what size the next bolts are. What have I already got on here? 19. Yeah, 19 will do. It's probably going to be breaker bar material. There. This one started. And the next one is where? Right here. This one feels smaller for some reason. So you gotta have that leverage for these old parts. Yeah, this is hardware that we're holding on to. This is not going back anywhere. There. Should come off. If the pads aren't seized onto the rotor, that is. There we are. That is nasty. Nasty, nasty. Whew. Alright, so now that we got the saddle and caliper out of the way, let's see if we can get the rotors off. It's loosening. There. That's a good scored and pitted nasty rotor. Alright, that's fit for the dump, for the metal recyclers. As far as the rest of this, it looks okay. There's actually not too much in the way of rust behind that. Heat shield's okay. Alright. So, let's tidy this up with wire brush a little bit. That should do the trick. Alright, I'm just going to tidy up a little bit and then we'll keep going. But before I do tidy up, I just wanted to have a look at these pads. Absolutely seized and falling apart, delaminated from the metal. Absolute garbage. Alright, way overdue. Yeah, shame on me. That's it, we're fixing it now. That is nasty. Like, I don't know how they functioned before this, to be honest. You know what? I'm going to work on getting those pads out later. Suffice it to say, there is pretty much nothing left there. Alright, that's embarrassing. Driving around with that garbage. Alright, and they're just molded in there. No reusing that without a good refurbish in Mexico, wherever they do it. I think it is Mexico on the backs. Let's take this hardware out. I'll light this in for the core. Gross. Alright, tidy up a bit more and then we'll resume. Okay, so just continuing some cleanup where we can. There we are. So, at this point in time, I believe we're ready for a little bit of lubrication back here. And grab the new rotor. Here is the new rotor. Oh, she's big. Some shop towels. I'll bring you guys down now to see the rotor here. Just going to do a quick test fit. That is good. So let's clean it up a bit now. And for that I'm going to switch away from my dirty work gloves to some nitrile gloves again. Try and keep the rotor as clean as possible. Alright, so let's polish this up a little bit now. And this cleaning is so that if there's any oil or residue on the rotor from either packaging or just handling, then we can get rid of that so it doesn't interfere with our braking. Yeah, it's just let me get the back of this stuff. Alright, so next is going to be our saddle mount, which is such, and that's going to go on like this. So what I'm going to do to begin is make sure I'm lining this up properly. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to put this on yet because I need to put the pads in it. Alright, so I'm not going to put that on just yet. Let's open up our pads and get that put in there. So surprisingly, when I opened up the pads, there's no hardware in here. So it's a good thing that my new caliper came with hardware. So we're getting a little bit lucky here today. So before I put the hardware in, I'm going to grab a bit of grease. It's brake lubricant. And I figure we're going to have to snip the tip. Like such. And just going to do inside where the hardware goes here. Around these ears and stuff. Just to prevent corrosion, which could force the hardware to pinch in on the brake pads, or so I have been told. Just using a little bit, and I'm going to work it in. Such. Okay, that's that. Now, I'm going to ditch this. Get the hardware. Okay, and this should only go in one way. It should be like this, I believe. Just centering it as best as I can here. There we are, that's one side of the hardware pressed in. I'll get the other one. Get a bit closer for this one. Alright, and lining that up like such. Just having a good look down at it. There we are. That's the hardware seated. Now, time for the pads. These aren't looking like the right pads. I don't know if I may not have the right pads here. Let's compare these with the old pads. They look like they're right. Just looks like maybe I got the hardware wrong. They are the right pads. So maybe I did the hardware wrong or something. I don't think I did. I don't know if this hardware is supposed to flex all the way down. It seems odd way for it to go. I'm assuming this is the right caliper because these pads do not fit. The saga continues. Alright, I'm going to give Napa a call, see if they can match these up with the proper pads. They look like the old ones, but this caliper replacement is not jiving with them. Alright, we'll be back again. The saga continues. Alright, boys and girls, no matter how many ways I look at this, twist it, turn it upside down, inside out, the pads I got are not made for this saddle. Alright, they just don't match up. 100%, like with hardware out, these don't even fit in the side slots. Alright, see if we can show you at some kind of sensible angle. Alright, like they don't even, the slots don't even fit in the tracks. None alone with the hardware in there. So these pads are good for the calipers I took off, but these replacement refurbished ones not fitting the original pads. So I called Napa, they're closed, so that's our day at a halt right now until I can resume this tomorrow. So, alright, I'll probably post this video. You know what, I'll probably edit this together, post it to you guys so you can see where I'm at, and this is just going to be a real life account of how things are going. This is no pre-planning to these hiccups. This is just real life happening, and we'll roll with the punches, as I like to say. Alright, so yeah, we'll finish off for here for now. Alright, so ends part one of the ultimate brake change, okay? The 17-year-old GMC brake change when most people would have her gone to the scrapyard. Alright, call me stupid, call me silly. It is what it is. I'm just throwing money at it for now, see if we can get this fixed up and back to okay shape, give her some more life, and go from there. Alright, there's a method to the madness. Hopefully it pays off. But I got an appointment with Napa tomorrow. I got to talk to those guys. Tomorrow's Friday. So I got to get all my parts sorted out before the weekend comes. I don't want to be left hanging like this for a whole weekend. Anyways, till next video, which will probably be tomorrow, because I want to get at this again tomorrow. So hope you're happy, hope you're healthy, take care of each other, and peace out.